Good evening and welcome to News Review. Armed Forces Minister Marc Francois says the forces' links with Gibraltar remain as strong as ever. He said MOD jobs here are safe and will remain so. Mr Francois reiterated the Royal Navy's presence in Gibraltar is kept under constant review, but would not be drawn on whether this is likely to be reinforced anytime soon. At a joint press conference at Number 6, the Chief Minister welcomed the UK government's very clear commitment to Gibraltar and to MOD jobs here.
Speaking to journalists today, the Armed Forces Minister described his first visit to the ROC since taking his current portfolio as very constructive. Marc Francois said the UK government greatly values and is proud of the contribution made by Gibraltar to the forces. Mr Francois, can we ask you how safe MOD jobs are, MOD and related jobs are on the ROC?
I believe they are safe. We've been talking about a long-term commitment to Gibraltar. We have a programme, Project Euston, that everyone's aware of, that will provide us with a slim and lean forward operating base. But once we've got to that level, once we have that very efficient system, we intend to maintain that for a long period of time. It's a key facility for us. It helps provide us with global reach. We're very pleased to have it, and we intend to be here for a long while.
In the face of ongoing incursions by Spanish state vessels, the former Navy Chief, Lord West, has recently called for the Royal Navy to reinforce its presence on the ROC. The Chief Minister has echoed those sentiments, as have MPs and MEPs. Will you, as Armed Force Ministers, boost the Royal Navy's presence in Gibraltar?
Well, I've been out looking at it for myself this morning. I was out on the water, on the Dawn Patrol, with the Royal Navy Gibraltar Squadron. I've been very impressed by what our naval personnel can do, having seen it in action for myself. I have some skin in the game here, as they say. My father served in the Royal Navy in the Second World War on a minesweeper. He was at D-Day, so all of that is in my blood. We've had, I think, about 14 surface units visit Gibraltar just in the space of 2013. We have our submarine visits coming back again, thanks in no small part to the Chief Minister, who's helped to facilitate that. The Royal Navy will be visiting Gibraltar very regularly indeed, and I've also been looking at where the Queen Elizabeth class aircraft carriers in a few years' time will be able to moor up. I've checked she fits in the harbour. She does. It'll be a wonderful day when Queen Elizabeth sails in.
And I'm sure many Gibraltarians will look forward to that, but are there any plans to boost the Royal Navy's permanent presence here?
Well, I've been looking, we have a permanent presence here at the moment, and I've been out on the water actually looking at it. You know, we keep these matters under review. Part of my purpose in being here is to learn. But we believe we have a capability to defend and exercise sovereignty here. We're doing that. We're out there patrolling every day on a daily basis, but you will continue to see a large number of Royal Navy warships each year visiting Gibraltar, and that will go on for many years to come.
Is the dignity of those Royal Navy personnel being undermined by Spanish incursions, or indeed Gibraltar's sovereignty? I know the Chief Minister said that we should separate sovereignty from incursions, that Gibraltar and Britain remain confident, but do those incursions undermine, in the eye of not just Gibraltarians but international onlookers, the sovereignty and especially the dignity of the Royal Navy?
Well, I think the Royal Navy has one of the proudest naval traditions of any navy in the world. No one has managed to undermine the dignity of the Royal Navy in over 300 years, and I don't believe anybody's going to start now.
On Tuesday, around 300 people demonstrated peacefully against excessive Spanish controls at the frontier on the International Day of Human Rights. The demonstration was attended by individuals and associations from Gibraltar and the Campo.
In his address, co-organizer Juan Pesino made reference to the fact that the protest coincided with Nelson Mandela's funeral, which was being attended by Spanish heads of state such as Mariano Rajoy and Prince Felipe. He added that the irony of this was not lost. He also praised those who'd fought for human rights, internationally acclaimed figures like Gandhi and Martin Luther King, but also local figures like Gonzalo Arias, who jumped over the closed frontier a number of times to highlight the issue, and trade unionists Bernard Linares and José Neto. The emphasis at the demonstration was very much on cross-border cooperation and solidarity.
I feel there's been a lot of support. There's at least 250 to 300 people here from different nationalities, you know, people from La Linea, people from Gibraltar, people obviously from other nationalities who work in Gibraltar as well, who are affected by this. And we've all set aside, you know, any differences, anything like that, on what is a very special day for humanity itself, International Human Rights Day. And it's been very peaceful, and everyone's in full support of what we've come out to do, which is complain about the treatment, the inhumane treatment of people who have to use that border.
This is our aim, you know, to intensify every time we do anything, and even go to Europe and protest there, because the Europeans, when they came here to control the situation, they came, as we all know, and they did a job that was not proper. And we will show all Europe that what they do here in the Gibraltar La Linea frontier shouldn't be done, because we are all Europe. There is a flag of Europe here in Gibraltar. There is another flag in La Linea, and we are part of Europe, and Europe shouldn't treat their state members the way they are treating us here in the border.
Those parts of the European Convention on Human Rights thought relevant were also read out to the crowd in both Spanish and English by the organisers. A further demonstration has been planned for January on the Spanish side of the frontier, to coincide with an International Day of Non-Violence and Peace.
Also ahead of the demo, our reporter Jonathan Sacramento spoke to one of the spokesmen for the group, Samuel Fernandez, who is also the owner of Radio Bahía Libre and patron of the La Linea Spanish Fishermen's Guild.
Hombre, se ha creado porque desgraciadamente se están violando los derechos humanos de todos los ciudadanos que cruzan la frontera, sean españoles, sean gibraltareños, sean australianos, de donde sea se están violando los derechos, ¿no? Y como ayer se comentaba en un programa de radio, toda esa parafernalia que hay aquí montada en esos controles, con los boinas que han traído, con ese coche escáner, ese furgón escáner, pues no ha servido para nada, porque eso no ha dado fruto ninguno. Ni se ha cogido droga, ni se ha cogido armamento, ni se ha cogido ni dinero. Para mí eso es un acto criminal, es un acto que a mí, que me gustan los documentales, solamente lo puedo igualar con esas colas que hacía Hitler antes de llevar a la gente a las cámaras de gas, ¿no? Para mí es terrible, es una violación de derechos humanos, y eso es lo que nos mueve. Es decir, aquí yo no estoy aquí hablando como Radio Bahía, ¿no? Estoy hablando como un ciudadano que veo que se están violando muchos derechos humanos de todas las personas, de niños, de ancianos, de mujeres, sin ningún tipo de contemplación.
Tell us about Tuesday's demonstration, what will be happening and what will you be doing?
Bueno, la manifestación, hacemos nosotros una llamada a todos los ciudadanos de Gibraltar y del campo de Gibraltar, especialmente de La Linea, y nosotros confiamos en que la gente esté en esta manifestación para hacernos oír, para expresar nuestra repulsa hacia esas medidas. Y es una manifestación pacífica, sin duda, y yo estoy convencido, porque lo vi el día de la manifestación que organizó el obispo, que de Gibraltar va a venir mucha gente, pero yo quiero que de la línea no me fallen los míos. Es decir, que los comerciantes que se están quejando del daño que está haciendo tienen que estar aquí, y los trabajadores que pasan horas y horas de cola tienen que estar ahí con nosotros, porque cuanto más seamos, más fuerte será la fuerza con que llegará la voz a las instituciones europeas.
Also this week, the Spanish Foreign Minister expressed doubts as to the solidity of Spain's claim to the sovereignty of Gibraltar's territorial waters. José Manuel García Margallo said he was confident that Spain would win any court case against what it considers to be the illegal occupation of the isthmus. But he wasn't so sure about the waters. We'd have to see, he was reported to have said. Mr. Margallo said Spain will have to take several decisions in relation to Gibraltar, among them whether it mounts a legal claim to the isthmus and whether it continues to press at the United Nations for bilateral talks with the UK on Gibraltar's sovereignty. He also claimed that if an ad hoc framework for dialogue can be agreed and Gibraltar takes part, so too will the Campo authorities, depending on the issues being discussed. Spanish opposition to the border queues implemented by the PP government continued to grow, with civil unrest manifesting itself this week. An internal memo detailing a timetable of Guardia Civil checks at the frontier appears to have been leaked. And a senior PP government representative was set upon by an angry crowd during a visit to the border this week.
Always knew it wasn't alone in opposing the disproportionate checks at the border.
But few would have imagined that an unlikely ally would emerge wearing the uniform of the Guardia Civil. GBC has learned from sources close to Spanish unions that there are disgruntled elements within regional Guardia Civil units who feel they're being used as political pawns and treated as second-rate enforcers by the arrival of the heavy-handed special forces from Algeciras, colloquially referred to as boinas. An English translation of what appears to be a timetable of frontier checks has been circulated on social media for the week ending Sunday the 15th of December. In answers to questions, an official spokesman for the Guardia Civil has denied that an official document has been leaked and says border controls are sporadic and not planned ahead. However, based on the pattern for the last 3 days, the trend at the border appears to be following this timetable. Meanwhile, the PP government representative in Andalusia, Carmen Crespo, has been jeered and insulted by her own citizens during a visit to inspect the Gibraltar-La Línea border. Mrs. Crespo has solidly defended the border controls, saying they're justified and are yielding results in terms of tobacco confiscations. However, on arrival at the border, she was met with a group of protesters. She has already vowed to be sensitive to the needs of cross-border workers, even though she feels the border controls are proportionate. However, she's also been criticized by the Association of Spanish Workers in Gibraltar, ASTEG, for not having made any time to speak to them during her visit.
The PSOE party has confirmed to the chief minister that the Spanish opposition is committed to dialogue with Gibraltar, be it via the tripartite process or via the new ad hoc formula. This emerged following a meeting this week between Mr. Picardo and senior members of the PSOE party at the invitation of the La Línea mayor, Gemma Araujo. The PSOE delegation consisted of MPs Gaspar Zarias, Juan Moscoso, the Cádiz Secretary-General Irene Garcia, and Francisco Cornejo, spokesman for Regional Municipal Policy. They were accompanied by Ms. Araujo, who had convened the members of Federal Executive and other senior PSOE figures to visit La Línea today to take part in the Ayuntamiento's Mesa de Gibraltar sessions earlier in the day. That earlier meeting had been held to discuss the most recent developments at the frontier and the implications of the restrictions imposed by the Partido Popular government in Madrid for Spanish workers on the Rock and for businesses in La Línea and the Campo. According to a No. 6 statement, Ms. Araujo outlined her concerns in respect of the effect that the present frontier restrictions are having on La Línea, concerns that were shared by the members of the PSOE from Madrid and Cádiz. Everyone present confirmed their view of dialogue as the way forward, whether under the trilateral or ad hoc formula, to foster progress in good neighbourly relations and to exploit mutually beneficial economic activity in the future. Mr. Picardo said he was very pleased to be able to meet the senior members of the PSOE, most of whom he's known for many years. He said he was delighted that they confirmed dialogue is the only way forward to promote good neighbourly relations, mutual understanding and policies designed to deliver mutual economic benefit for people on both sides of the frontier. The head of the La Línea Fishermen's Association, Leoncio Fernández, resigned this week. He was quoted in the Spanish press as saying that he'd done so because some of the fishermen objected to his participation in a recent demonstration against Chief Minister Fabian Picardo in Algeciras that resulted in Mr. Picardo cancelling a lecture he was due to give to law students. Mr. Fernández said he didn't know how many others might follow him out of the association. Meanwhile, the mayor of Algeciras, José Ignacio Landaluce, has not surprisingly given Leoncio Fernández his full support. He described him as a standard-bearer in the defence of the interests of the fishing sector and also in his support of Spain's territorial integrity against the, quote, bad neighbour that is Gibraltar. And we'll be back with more of this week's news after the break.